Okay, today we're jumping into a story that honestly has all the makings of a thriller. We've got a late night escape, a wrecked yacht, and a huge legal battle that went all the way to the highest court in the land. This is all about a landmark case from 1970 that completely changed how we think about who's responsible when things go wrong.
And it all really boils down to this one single question. I mean, think about it for a second. Are you responsible for what someone else does? If you're supposed to be watching somebody and they sneak off and cause a bunch of trouble, are you on the hook for it? Well, that's the exact puzzle the courts had to solve. So, let's set the scene. Our story kicks off on a summer night on Brownsea Island, this little spot off the coast of England. A group of young guys are there for what's supposed to be a training exercise, a step toward getting back on the straight and narrow. But as you can probably guess, things are about to go very, very sideways. There are really three main groups at the heart of all this. First, you've got 7 Borstal boys, basically teenagers from a youth detention center, and they've got a known history of getting into trouble. Second, there are the 3 government officers who are their supervisors, the ones meant to be keeping an eye on them. And finally, anchored just a little ways offshore, you have these beautiful yachts owned by the Dorset Yacht Company, and their owners have absolutely no idea what's coming. So here's how it all went down. The training exercise for the day wraps up, and what did the 3 officers do? They go to sleep, leaving these 7 boys completely unsupervised. Well, of course, the boys see their chance. They slip away in the middle of the night, make their way to the harbor, and hop on a yacht to get away. But in the chaos, they end up colliding with another boat, causing a whole lot of damage before they vanish. The next morning, the Dorset Yacht Company discovers their damaged boat. They want someone to pay up. But here's the twist. They don't sue the boys who did it. Nope. They sue the government department in charge of the officers, the Home Office. And just like that, a simple case of property damage turns into this massive legal show. The question at the center of it all was actually pretty simple. Who's really to blame here? Is it the boys who actually crashed the boat, or is it the supervisors who were literally asleep on the job and allowed the whole thing to happen in the first place? So the two sides laid out their cases. The yacht company argued that the officers were negligent, that their failure to do their jobs directly caused the damage. But the government fired back with a classic legal defense, saying, hey, we're not responsible for the independent criminal actions of other people. And you know what? Back then, the government had a really strong point. For centuries, the law was pretty clear. You're not responsible for what someone else does. The whole idea of suing a supervisor for something the person they're watching does, especially a crime, that was almost unheard of. This case was such a big deal that it went all the way to the House of Lords, which was the UK's highest court at the time. The entire legal world was watching, and what the court decided next was going to send absolute shockwaves through the system. In a totally stunning move, the court actually sided with the yacht company. One of the head judges, Lord Reed, basically said the old rules just weren't cutting it anymore. In this really famous line, he stated, "The time has come when we can and should say that it ought to apply." The law was literally changing right then and there. The whole decision really hung on this one legal idea called duty of care. The court said the officers had a legal obligation, a duty, not just to the boys, but to the public around them. Since it was well known that these boys could cause trouble, the officers had a duty to take reasonable steps to stop them from escaping and causing the exact kind of damage you'd expect them to cause. The key reasoning boiled down to 2 simple words: control and foreseeability. The officers had control over the boys, and it was completely predictable, that if unsupervised teenage offenders escaped an island, they might try to steal a boat and wreck something. That combination created a special relationship that stretched their responsibility all the way to the yacht owners. The long-term impact of this was absolutely huge. First, it suddenly became possible for regular people to sue the government for being negligent. Second, it stretched this core legal idea called the neighbor principle, which basically asks, who could my actions affect? This case said, yeah, in this situation, the yacht owners were totally the officers' neighbors. And third, it created a powerful new legal precedent that's been a cornerstone of negligence law ever since. So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's pretty simple, really. Just because you didn't physically do the bad thing doesn't mean you're off the hook. Sometimes what you fail to do, your negligence, can make you just as responsible as the person who did. And this idea, born from one crazy night back in 1970, is more relevant today than ever. Just think about it. In our world of social media, platforms have a level of control over what users post, and they can absolutely foresee the potential harm that content might cause. It forces us to ask a really modern version of that same old question: who's responsible? The person who posts something awful, or the platform that had a duty of care to stop it from spreading? Definitely something to think about.